Hey guys, Seventh Moose from the left here. Sorry I haven't been doing videos lately. It is kind of a work issue going from third shift to first shift. Tired all the time. Also, with coronavirus, it is hard to find a couple of moments in between all the craziness where the house is pretty quiet. So I'm going to give this a shot. I don't have a lot of time, so let's get right into it. So, a little while ago, about 2 weeks ago, I promised you guys a video on the prison system and what I think should or could be changed in order to kind of fix it and identifying some of the problems that I see. I'm going to start off by saying one of the biggest problems I see in the prison system is these private prisons. Now, the idea of a private prison isn't inherently wrong or evil. I think that the way it's currently run is these private prisons, they're paid um, money based on how long a prisoner stays. So if you have somebody who has a 5 year sentence, the prison is incentivized to keep that prisoner there longer as opposed to shorter or the exact amount of time. And go figure, whenever a business is incentivized to, or paid to do something, incentivized to do something monetarily, they do it as much as possible. Oh my gosh, what a shocker. So, in these private prisons, what you have sometimes is they will make up rules and regulations that prevent people from leaving early or on time. They make it almost impossible. They make the rules very, very, very strict so that a person on a 5 year sentence and ideally stays there for 6.5 years or 7.5 years. That's 7.5 years would be a 50% return or a 50% increase on their profit margin. Any of you guys that have ever run a business, a 50% increase is a huge jump. So obviously, they're going to do whatever they can legally to keep people in their prison. They're also going to not sign off on any early releases or paroles or anything else because there's no there's no reason to. There's no incentive to. They've already got a good prisoner, especially if they're a good prisoner, a nice, easy, no bullshit prisoner. They're going to want to keep them there as long as possible, and that's kind of not what we want to be doing. Also, these prisons, they don't really have any incentive to have programs to reduce recidivism. In fact, the opposite. They do well when there's a lot of people returning to jail because now they make more money. So I think that changing the law so that these private prisons can only house either long term criminals or people who are in for life or are on death row is a better option. Or if not that, not just that, you can also only pay the prison for the actual sentence of the person. So if they're released early, then they still get paid that, in this earlier example, 5 years. And if they're released late, they only get paid 5 years. That would incentivize the prisons to release people early. That doesn't really incentivize people to help any recidivism issues. And I don't think there's any way to encourage a prison to have any kind of anti-recidivism programs. So, with short of like tax benefits or straight paying them more money to do so. If you have these private prisons only handling the long-term lifers, then there's no reason for them to do recidivism programs because these people are never going to get out. And you can let the state actually handle that. We used to do this in this country. We used to care about recidivism a lot. We used to educate prisoners. We used to try to give them vocational training. We used to try to give them some kind of drug rehab or anything else, but it became unpopular, especially with the Republican Party. They are very hard onto the justice, and these prisoners are criminals and they need to be punished. They're not here to have fun. Well, while that's true, kind of agree, prison shouldn't be a cakewalk for anyone ever. In the same token, um, it doesn't help society when a person leaves jail and they have no options. You know, they are a felon now. They can't own a gun. In a lot of states, they can't vote. I know federally, in most cases, you can still vote, but in a lot of states, if you are a felon, you can't vote. So they've lost all their rights for the most part, and they can't find a job. And that's permanent, that's forever. So, what's the point in not going back to crime, not selling drugs, not joining that gang again, whatever have you, not breaking into a house? I don't know. It doesn't matter. There is no incentive. There's no point in saying, well, if I'm just good for so long, if I can just struggle through it for this long, I'll make it out. So I do think that we do need to change some of our felony laws, especially. Personally, I think that after a person completes their probation and their prison sentence, 7 years of no more jail time type offenses, if they get a ticket or whatever, who cares? If they're not going back to jail and getting charged with another crime, I think after 7 years that they should have a automatic restoration of all their rights. That means they're allowed to vote in all elections. They're allowed to own a gun. They don't have to tell their employer that they were a felon because they are functionally no longer a felon. That gives people who are more driven, who want to make a change, the incentive to change, and a actual time limit where they can say, "Hey, now if I can just make it through this next couple of years, I'll be good forever." And it also makes them not want to commit more crimes if they've made it past that point, because then they know how much work, time, and energy they have to go through to get back to that point. So that's definitely a positive thing. And also, the big part here is it will allow them to vote. And in these, especially in these local elections where it matters the most, when felons aren't voting, there isn't prison reform, because the only people that really care about prison reform are former prisoners because they've experienced it. You or I, probably you, who are watching this, if you've never spent time in jail, what do you care about prisoners on a personal level at the very least? Because you're not one. You probably don't. So you don't really have that emotional engagement to these types of issues. Um, anyway, guys, those are mostly my thoughts on the prison system and how they should be fixed. Mostly, we need to focus on reduction of recidivism and trying to get people their rights back. Other than, I mean, I know there are certain ways you can get records expunged, but that's expensive and it can take forever. And in most cases, they just won't let you do it. It's up to the state to just say yes or no. So let me know what you guys think. Tell me how wrong I am. Tell me how right I am. Give me some comments. Thanks a lot. End of video.